Theresa May's former Chancellor and Chief Ramona Philip Hammond decided to go on LBC and Andrew Marr's show to insult the people of Britain and say that we should make a deal with the European Union to increase mass economic migration into this country. First things first, what is the point of LBC these days? Who are the listeners? Well, we know that the echo chamber of the Islington types and Hampstead and Camden residents who already know what they're thinking. I'm not really sure if they're going to gain anything by listening to Philip Hammond having a chit-chat with another leftist, Andrew Marr. But clearly there's a gap in the market, so fair enough. Free market, woo, go LBC. But let me show you the clip, this interview that Philip Hammond did as former Chancellor, even though he was not the best Chancellor that we had. Apparently has expertise. So he says that we have all these jobs in this country. Now, put aside inflation and the cost of living crisis and all that stuff, the actual job market is pretty okay in this country. But at the same time, we also have a lot of unemployed people. So Philip Hammond's solution, instead of actually focusing on our people, he says we have to make a deal with the Europeans because they are better. Watch this.
All of these service businesses need access to the European market. We need labour in the UK, whether we like it or not. If our economy is going to prosper, we're going to have to bring in hundreds of thousands of foreign workers to do the jobs that are currently not being done and which are depressing our GDP growth through the restaurants that are closed, the pubs that can't open 7 nights a week and so on.
Okay, Mr. Hammond, let's talk about the truth behind all this. When we have, right now, in this country, 1.25 million unemployed people, and when you have this issue, and your focus is to simply go with GDP growth, this just GDP growth obsession with increasing GDP is a short-term plaster. Because if you do mass migration, mass economic migration, without proper integration, by undermining the identity of the country and the culture, it is going to have medium and long-term negative impact, whether you like it or not. And that negative impact will then have an actual direct effect on the same GDP growth that you are dreaming of. But he doesn't really understand this because he says, well, priority is the migrants. Instead of actually training our own people, instead of actually trying to incentivize our own people to do these jobs. First try this. If you really fail, then fine. Go and find specialists from other countries to bring in for certain jobs. But he also doesn't actually understand, well, clearly understands it, but he's a manipulator, says this is how we do trade agreements. Watch this.
And there's clearly a deal to be done here between the European Union, which would welcome an ability for labour to move freely.
Capital as well.
Of course. But the clear trade that I see is access to European markets for British services business as of right in exchange for access to the UK labour market.
So he's not only saying that economic migrants are more important than British people and training up our own people. He actually believes, and these new Keynesians and centralized idiots who want to centralize all economic policies have completely ruined the concept of free trade and trade deals. This wasn't the case decades ago, a century ago, when you had, for example, Britain and France negotiating a trade agreement. You can't really make a deal, say, it's more like extortion or blackmail when you go to a country and say, well, we need access, so you give us access, and we'll give you, and you give us your people, and we'll give you our market. It's a bit weird. So we're taking people and we're replacing it with services market as a market access. That's not free trade. Free trade or trade agreements are supposed to be based on any product or service that you have. You actually exchange that. People and the movement of people were never supposed to be part of trade agreements. And this is such a late 20th century idea to say you can't have free trade without free movement. When did you come up with this idea? I don't understand how the European Union and all these Keynesians and the economically illiterate idiots who decided to run the European Union, and they also took their ideas to Davos and World Economic Forum as a think tank and lobby group, and now it's been spread like a virus. This is not logical. You're completely undermining the country's culture and the country's identity. But they don't care because it's going to help with the GDP. Train up the British people. Priority should be Britain and British people. Simple. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm Maya TC and we are the media.